Thanks for tuning in to Fat Stack Duramax here in BMAX Garage. Today we're going to be installing the AirDog 165. I got this kit from truckmasterdiesel.com. In the kit we got a wiring harness, pre-wired from AirDog. Very nice. I've got 20 feet of 1-inch, 300-pound diesel hose. Instruction manual, very important. Got a box of parts here. A spacer, we got those fuel quick connects, bag of bolts, and a filler tube where we're going to be installing for the return line of the pump, and some hose clamps. Got some factory O-ring replacements just in case. Then we have zip ties to keep everything nice and tidy. There's the mounting bracket for the actual pump itself. Then we have the AirDog 165 2-micron filter and a water fuel separator. Some of the best filters on the market. Mounting plates to the frame, back and front. These are fuel line disconnects. Fuel line AC disconnects, but absolutely need them. They're part of the job. We've got a mounting plate here. Got a plastic block. Looks like a spacing block of some sort. Then we have our one of our plates, steel plate that goes to the side of the frame where we'll mount. So it'll kind of mount like this alongside the frame. We have those. We have all of our connections here, fuel line connectors and the quick snaps for them. We're going to have the long bolts and the short bolts, those recessed hex cap bolts for the actual AirDog itself. Now I'm following instructions from a video that I seen on Truckmaster's channel, Truckmaster Diesel here on YouTube. Fantastic channel, and this is where I'm getting my inspiration. Now the one thing that's different with this kit that I didn't think was going to be different was that this piece on the other kits that I've seen had an angle to them. This one is straight, just a straight piece. However, there are still arrows pointing in the direction of your tank, and inside you can see that there's that little lip right there. If you look on this side, you can't see the hole. The lip faces towards the arrows so that that return comes in here and comes back down towards the tank. And that's important when you're installing that. I did go to O'Reilly's and picked up a AC / fuel line disconnect kit, and it does come with the different sizes. It'll tell you on here. I've got 5/16, 3/8, half, 5/8, a 3/4, and a 7/8 is what it looks like. So this kit was $15, way less expensive than the AirDog itself, but totally worth it. And these come in handy for other builds. The kit also came with the electronics, the wiring pre-ran, which is so nice. This is fantastic. Props to you guys over at AirDog for this kit, because, man, if we had to do the wiring, this would suck. But anyway, it even came with the fuse box splitter, which is nice. So gonna be easy installing that. Did get a bunch of zip ties, small ones and large ones that we can use to install and kind of route everything, and plenty of 1/2-inch 300 psi diesel RX fuel line for this pump, and a great set of instructions. Also, go over to AirDog on YouTube and check out the install there if you have any questions. Like I said, Truckmaster Diesel puts out a really good install video for this kit, so that's what I'm following. But if there's any specific questions, I heard that AirDog has really good customer service and really good videos on their installs. Again, here's a better view of it, but you can see the arrows pointing that way. And if you kind of look down in there, you can see, if you can see in there, you see how it's facing this way. Now you can see that it goes towards the tank that way. So when the fuel comes back down here, it'll go towards the tank. You can tell I like Harbor Freight. Also came with this awesome sticker. Toolbox sticker, can't beat it. So the instructions have your first step right here on this other page that I was not prepared for, so that's totally okay. Installing the pump fittings. So this is going to be the first step here, taking out the AirDog and attaching these connections, which here's your parts list, and you've got 2 of the 1/2-inch male quick connect by 3/4 16 UNF ORBs. Those are going to be these right here, and those are the 3/4. This one is the 7/16, and I'll tell you exactly why. It's really easy with this kit. Like I said, props to AirDog for doing all this stuff because they really set us up. Now, can you tell which one's a 3/4 and the 7/16? Because I certainly can. And guess what's on the other side? Also 3/4. So you know where the 3/4 go, and you know where the 7/16 goes. Easy peasy. To add is the instructions say to dip clean. Dip your connections, these 3/4 and 7/16, in some clean engine oil. Well, today we have royal purple because, you know, why not? Why not be expensive? Am I right? So we're going to dip those threads in a little bit of this clean engine oil that it's talking about right here, this royal purple. Look at that sheen. Look at that. Doesn't that look pretty? It does look pretty. It's purple, which means that it's expensive. I don't know. So I'm going to dip these, and then we're going to get over here to this right here. Okay, the instructions say to go ahead and thread these after you dip them in oil. And once they're dipped in oil, then we can do that, which we just witnessed me do most of those. So I'm going to go ahead and thread the 7/16 first right here. And it says that you're going to need a long 3/4, I believe, and a long 9/16. Could totally be wrong on that. Let me check those instructions right. Yeah, 7/8 deep socket and a 9/16 deep socket. So I'm going to get my 7/16 and my 7/8 and 9/16 deep socket and get these installed. Just going to do them handy. It does say that you are supposed to use a torque wrench for torque spec. So 180 inch-pound or 15 foot-pound. That's 15 foot-pound. Okay. On the 9/16, it's 7 foot-pound, so be very wary of that. On the 7/8, the big ones, we're going to do 15 foot-pounds, and then this one is going to be 7 foot-pounds. You guys out there that like the Harbor Freight stuff, let me give you a quick review of these Harbor Freight. It'd be the U.S. General racks for these sockets and deep sockets. So the rack itself is good for the small ones. I haven't found any that don't fit, but a lot of these don't fit. Like, I have SK tools because I like the Made in America tools. But my SK 1/2-inch does not fit the hole, or the hole is too small for the peg, so I have to set it upside down, which really sucks. So if you're buying and you have, you know, special sockets, maybe take a couple of the sockets or your set in, and I mean, I guess you could return it. That's no big deal. But I mean, like, just test your sockets first before you actually commit to buying all this. Okay, so we're going to start with the 7/8 for these 3/4 or 1/2-inch quick connects. And that's going to be 15 foot-pounds again. And sorry, guys, I'm a Hypo-Tough torque wrench because I'm a cheap bastard and I don't have a really expensive torque wrench. So, as you can tell, I got that set right there at 15, and my indicator's at 0, so I know that is 15 foot-pounds. Maybe it'd be easier if I had this in a vise, but it is what it is. We're going to keep going because that's what we got. So, get it on there. Sounds like 15 foot-pounds to me. Let's go for the other side. You really don't need a vise. I thought that this was going to be a little bit harder than it was. It's actually not. So, oops. There's 15 foot-pounds. Now we can go, and we can go to the 9/16, and we can set this down to 7. So mine went down to 15 and that's it. So you have to reverse it down and count backwards. I ended up at 2, which is the appropriate amount to get to 7. So counted backwards. So let's just give her a test. I don't know if it's going to test or not. We'll see. If it feels like it's going further than what it's supposed to be, then I'll make it different. That's also not going to work because a deep socket, they really mean a deep socket, like a really deep socket. You're going to need a really deep socket. Let's try something else. Okay, what I found is a 9/16 Duralast ratcheting wrench, and I'm going to use the closed end on it. So, torque to spec, 7 pounds, so we got this down to where it's feeling like it's, there we go, and you ready? Here we go. Click, 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 click. That seems good to me. 7 foot-pounds, y'all. Other thing I'm going to do right quick, just to make sure that everything's kind of, you know, torque to spec, which we saw me just do. But I'm going to take my hand here and try to loosen these off, and they're not budging, so I know they're Gucci. And that's what AirDog says is 15 pounds and 7 pounds on the little bitty one here. But you're going to have a really, really deep socket, or if you don't want to buy special tools, guess. Part of the instructions say that we're going to mount this plate right here. So in the picture they have theirs taken off, and there's a short side and a long side. This is your air filter, that's the fuel filter. So to get in there, they do have the picture on there with that one. But anyway, I'm going to take them off. That's what I did. I already took them off, but so that we could see that this is the fuel filter side, which has the long filler, and then this is the air filter side, water fuel separator. My bad. That's what we got. Now we're going to mount the bracket according to the picture, which is like this right here on this deal. I'm probably going to speed this up because it's going to take me a minute. Okay, so you're going to need these 1/4 inch by 20 by 1.25 socket head cap screws right here, and then you're going to need 4 of the 1/4 inch lock washers and 1/4 inch nuts. So those are going to mount. You're going to mount the bolt itself downward into, and then the bracket and nut and lock washer go on the bottom, just like that. Here we go. So the instructions call for, on those bolts there, a 7/16 socket, which we've got 7/16 socket, and we're going to go with a 3/16 Allen. Now we've come to the part of the gig where we're going to mock up and pin it up as high as possible on this, just to the bottom of the bed there. So that's AirDog's instructions. However, if you go to Truckmaster Diesel, at Truckmaster on YouTube, and you watch his video, which he does the mock-up first. So he'll put this together here and this like this on here, and he mounts it up. He's done this so many times he knows, but I think he went to the second set of holes here. Okay, I stand corrected. I went back to the video and I watched, and he actually goes to the 3rd hole. This guy's done it a whole bunch of times, and he's got a bunch of trucks he puts these on, so he does it often and knows that that's where it goes. That's probably why he didn't mention it, but you can always mock up, but we're just going to take that there, and in that 3rd hole, we'll go down like that. We'll install it in there with these long hex head tappet, these recessed hex screws. Once we got these fasteners all torqued down, I tried 15 foot-pound, and I actually over-tightened and kind of ruined one of the lock washers. Luckily, I had some more lock washers. I put one on there, and I used my Milwaukee with a half-inch socket. Now, on the other side, you're going to need that 3/8. I believe that's 3/16 Allen, but they torque down pretty easy. So I know that my Milwaukee with the XC 3.0 will torque down to about 12 foot-pounds. I have tested that theory. Now, that could just be my tool. I don't know. So don't trust that, but I torqued it down to about 12 foot-pounds. The instructions actually don't say what the torque spec is supposed to be. It just says that you need to properly torque these, but it also doesn't say. So therein lies an issue. Anyway, next. No, that's not important. Next. Yeah, I'm not sponsored. I should be. Make sure. This is a really important thing. You put yourself, that's a dull knife, you put yourself a vent hole in your cores because it makes all the difference. Next step, we're going to actually take it to the truck itself, and we are going to mount this just like this. So this goes up in there on the frame, and this right here will be the top, and this will be the bottom, and you'll have 2 bolts up top and 1 bolt down bottom. They will come in through the back in here like this, and you'll thread this way on this plate. So when you've got it hooked to the frame, it'll be up here like this, and you'll put the nuts on this side. This side works that way, but it will not fit this way on the top ones because you've got the pump in the way. So you'll have to put them like this. Now let's get under the truck. Okay, under the truck. Now, this is the cab this way. And here's underside of the truck near the front of your drive shaft yoke. Right next to the transmission is where my camera is sitting. And it's facing backwards, as you can tell, the back tire. And you've got the cross member mount right there. And then you have your fuel tank and fuel cooler right there. So I mounted up here because I have some other stuff right here. Not only that, you have to think about where you're placing this is going to be in the way if you ever decide to install ladder bars, traction bars back up in here. You'll have to install somewhere in here, and you may have to move your bracket, but it's easily removed. So I do have some brake lines, looks like right here, and some sort of cable I'm going to try to mount without being in the way of those things and without squishing it. Okay, so I mounted mine by this brake line here, and I just pulled the brake line down a little bit. It does have play in it, so that's okay, and I put my bracket behind it and put my nuts on there so it wouldn't be rubbing or getting in the way of that brake line. Don't want anything happening there. Then we're going to torque them down with 2 9/16 wrenches. That ain't going nowhere. It's tight. Moving on to the next step. Disconnecting the main suction line on the fuel tank itself. Now, on some of these trucks, there is a vent or a shield on top. You may have to bend it out of the way, or you can just remove it entirely, and then you can get to that. And you will have to use your quick connect tools to get that line off. Once it's off, and I'll show you when I get up there. Once it's off, we'll remove the other end of it. That one's easier to get to. It's right here on top of this cooler, right up there. And then we can start installing line. Okay, here is the protective shroud. Here's the tank. This is my exhaust, and down below us is the drive line. We're next to the rear differential now. So what they're talking about is you can bend this out of the way like this and expose that connection that you need, which is back up in there. From what I understand on the LB7, this line right here is the one we have to remove, as well as the one right above the cooler over here, and I'll show you that one in just a minute. Okay, so we take our 1/2 inch line disconnect tool, and we're going to the front of the tank. You may not want gloves on this one because it's going to be kind of hard to get to. From what I understand, this is the way. And then we got to kind of force it in there. And then you really need 2 hands. But as you can see, I got mine disconnected, and it didn't take anything super special. Got my disconnect tool. That smells like diesel. Oh, it is. Okay, well, apparently the disconnect tool does not want to come off, so there's that. Don't break it. It is plastic, and you'll need it for the other side. Okay, one disconnect tool retrieved. Okay, so the other one is going to be right here by the cooler, and it's going to be this silver one here, and we're going to have to do the same thing with our 1/2 inch disconnect and put it on there and get that removed. So see if I can set you down well enough. Get it good and back in there. Now, geez, it's not easy. Whoever said this shit was easy was wrong. This is dumb. I don't like this at all, GM. This is fantastic. Well, I'm gonna have to do this off camera, so, but I'll show you when I get it. Okay, that was a pain to get to. And I mean a pain. But you could remove this cooler with 2 10mm bolts and drop it down to get it out of the way. So I would suggest doing that. Also, it makes a little bit of a mess, so don't be right under it like I was. Now we just got to plumb the connectors up there and remove the old hose from this bracket that's up here, and then we can put our new hose in. Okay, so I get this line here clipped into right above that heater that we were just at, or the cooler, sorry. And this hose has to come around, and it has to clip right in here to this 1/2 inch there. And so we're going to measure out some hose, make sure we're not putting it in the drive line or anything like that. So I'm going to come around the back side of it and then make a loop and cut my hose. So I think right here is going to be good for me. Remember, back side of this, you do not want it on the driveline side of things. Put it on the back side of this. Now I'm going to plumb it over here, but I got 20 foot of hose hair on me, so I'm just going to do like that around the back side through here and then hook up my hose. Pre-measure before you cut, and then make your connection and plug in your little quick connect. I'll show you that in a second. Okay, you can see that I've cut and put in my line behind the pump, in between the frame and the pump. Now I'm just going to take a little cap of oil that I have And I'm going to take this quick connector and I'm going to put some oil around the quick connector. I'll show you in a second. I'm getting oil on my fingers. So take the oil around the connector like so, because those quick connect fittings in that hose are solid, and you want to make sure that this thing is lubed good to get you on that hose. Elsewise, it might just be a little bit of a pain. So I'm going to pull this back out so that I can put some good pressure on it, and I'm going to stick this connector right in the hose. And you got to do it till it stops. That is a connection, all right. Oh, that's about as far as I could get mine. I think it's supposed to go up to that butt, but it won't go any further. So, with all of my strength, which is probably not much, but I got it on there. Now, do the 3/4 line, or the 1/2 inch line, which is the bigger. Remember, this smaller one goes to the filler neck tube, which is going to be down that way a little ways, and we're going to pipe that through when we get to that. One click is all you need, and you know that it's on there. It's not going anywhere, and it's made up. Alright, now we're on the back side where the inlet is, and we're going to create another hose that'll go from here back around to the top of the tank where we took it out earlier. Remember, oil those quick connects before you put them in the hose. It'll help you get them in there. Now what I'm going to do, now that I got my connection on there, is I am going to start at the top of the tank and plug this in, and then stretch my hose out and then measure it out here. That way I don't have to move the camera, and I don't have to, I'll have a lot more working room. So I'll be right back. Okay, got it plumbed, and you'll just take that one click. That's all it takes. Now on to the filler neck. Okay, now with the 1/2 inch tube fuel line plumbed down from the filler neck over to the pump, I'm going to find a place to install this. Now I want that right in here because I have a piece of frame that's sitting right where my finger is that holds the bed on. So I'm going to put it right here where that spout comes out, and I'm going to have that ran to right there. So I'm going to cut my line and place my connector, quick connector on there, and then we're going to cut this tube. Now, something to keep in mind, the 2001 to 2004s, the LB7s, they have a plastic tube on the inside of this. You do not want to cut the plastic tube. So what you do is you cut around and keep that tube away from your blade, and cut this pipe, the filler neck, around, and then you'll have to fish that tube out and fish your connector in. You'll have to fish this in and then fish that plastic line back through there. Now remember that these arrows point towards the tank, not the filler neck where you fill up. Point towards the tank, and then your return flow will go towards the tank, not towards your filler neck. Okay, cutting the filler neck. Now I want this to sit right about here, so I'm going to mark out where that center is with my finger. Then I'm going to take my knife, get a razor blade, and I'm going to mark out right there. So Now to figure out how to get the plastic tube out. So what I figured out is that when you make your one cut, make another one about 1 inch back. You'll have plenty enough tube. Remember, you're adding some. You've got some play in this filler neck back feed drain. Anyway, I'm going to cut one back about 1 inch here of this pipe, and then try again. Okay, so I got it in there. It took me all of about 30 minutes to get this thing to where it wanted to actually do anything. That tube is a pain, and I suggest you take the filler neck loose to take it out, because it does not like coming out. I will tell you that. So right now I'm clamping on these bands, getting them good and tight on the filler neck. I went ahead and hooked up my tube to the pump itself. And then on to the wiring and adding the filters. Alright, now remember to dab a little oil on the seal. And these, just hand tight a little pass. The wiring, so I'm going to fish the lead, which is this plug here that goes to the pump, down that way and underneath to the pump, and then zip tie it along the frame rail. Then the other side has this right here that you bolt on to the frame somewhere, the cab, or just somewhere secure up in here. Probably right over here is where I'm going to put it. It's right there. Good place for it. Then you have the little red wire, and the red wire is the tap for in the fuse box. So we're just going to tap it in to the fuse box on an accessory, and then this one is our positive and negative battery terminal leads. And then we will I'll do all that off camera, and then I'm going to do a prime video so we can prime the fuel and make sure that it starts. Okay, wiring's always fun. So I just put a little M5 bolt and nut for the back side of that relay. Wound everything up in the box itself. Put it to the accessory, TBC one, I think, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, and then I had a spot here already for a gauge that I had mounted previously. All that stuff is out of the way, and I zip tied it right there. And then as for the other stuff, there's its 20 amp fuse. I'll do something with that later. And then I had a lot of extra, so I just coiled this up right here for now, ran it underneath, and put one in the battery terminal there and one to another ground that I have another wire going to. So I was going to run it across the back and hook it to that battery, but I don't have the post that matches up with what I need. And then I ran that plug underneath the wheel well right in through here, and then right up underneath to the pump itself right there, and plugged it in. Now to prime it. Okay. You can hear it running. That was from earlier. No leaks. No fresh leaks. Everything looks good. One lift pump installed. Thanks again for tuning in to Fat Stack Duramax at B-Max Garage. See you next time.